The mining vessel Helios drifted through the asteroid belt of the Proxima Centauri system, its massive collection arrays gathering precious rare earth elements from the space rocks. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge viewport, her dark eyes scanning the field of tumbling stones ahead. After 15 years in deep space, she thought she'd seen everything the void could throw at her. She was wrong. "Captain, we're picking up an unusual energy signature," called out Marcus, her sensor specialist. "It's not matching any known human configurations." Sarah's spine straightened. First contact protocols had been drilled into every deep space crew since humanity reached for the stars, but actually encountering alien life, that was different. "Show me." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a small vessel perhaps a third the size of the Helios. Its design was organic, almost crystalline, with sweeping curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal. But what caught Sarah's attention were the damage patterns across its hull. This ship had been in a fight. "Life signs?" she asked, already moving toward the command chair. "One confirmed," Marcus replied, his fingers dancing across the sensor array. "But it's weak and getting weaker. Their life support systems appear to be failing." Sarah felt the weight of command settle on her shoulders. Humanity had yet to make peaceful first contact with any alien species. The 3 encounters so far had all ended in violence, leaving both sides scared and suspicious. The Proxima Accords were clear: alien vessels were to be reported and avoided unless directly threatened. But someone was dying out there. "Dr. Rivera to the bridge," she called over the intercom. "Prep the medical bay for a possible xenobiology patient." She turned to her helm officer. "Take us in slow, Tom. No sudden moves." As they drew closer, the damage became more apparent. The alien vessel's hull was pockmarked with impacts that couldn't have come from asteroids. This was weapons fire, precise and deliberate. Someone had tried very hard to kill whoever was in that ship. "Captain," Marcus's voice was tense. "We're being scanned. Their systems are active but minimal power." Sarah took a deep breath. "Open a channel, all frequencies, universal greeting protocol." The comm system hummed to life, broadcasting the carefully crafted message of peace and assistance that humanity had prepared for this very moment. For long moments, there was only silence. Then, a burst of static followed by a series of musical tones that made Sarah's teeth ache. Running it through the linguistic matrix, Marcus reported, It's a distress call. Universal mathematical sequence. They're asking for help." Sarah felt her crew's eyes on her. This decision would echo through history, one way or another. Match their orbit. Prepare emergency docking procedures. Security team to airlock 3, full containment protocols. As her crew moved with practiced efficiency, Sarah studied the alien vessel. Its design spoke of an advanced civilization, one that might have much to teach humanity, or one that might pose a terrible threat. But she couldn't ignore what was right in front of her. Someone needed help, and she had the power to provide it. "Docking sequence initiated," Tom reported from the helm. "Contact in 3 minutes." Dr. Rivera arrived on the bridge, her medical kit already in hand. "Captain, we have no idea about their biology, their atmospheric requirements, or potential pathogens. This is incredibly risky." "Noted, Doctor, but we're doing it anyway." Sarah stood, straightening her uniform. Humanity's first 3 encounters with alien life ended in blood. Maybe it's time we tried something different. The docking procedure was delicate, requiring multiple attempts before they achieved a solid seal. Security Chief Williams reported his team was in position, the containment field ready. Sarah made her way to the airlock, Dr. Rivera close behind. Through the reinforced viewport, Sarah watched as the emergency override engaged on the alien ship's airlock. As the doors slowly cycled open, she got her first look at their unexpected guest. The alien was humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin had a silvery sheen, and what appeared to be crystalline formations grew along its arms and face. It was also clearly injured, dark fluid seeping from multiple wounds. The alien's eyes met Sarah's, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle pattern, and she saw something universal in that gaze: fear, hope, and desperate need. In that moment, Sarah Chen made a choice that would change the course of human history. Full medical response, she ordered, stepping into the airlock herself despite her security team's protests. "We're going to save this life, whatever it takes." As she approached the injured alien, Sarah spoke softly, knowing her words wouldn't be understood, but hoping her tone would convey her intent. "You're safe now. We're going to help you." The alien's crystalline structures flickered with weak light, and it reached out one trembling hand towards Sarah. She took it without hesitation, feeling the strange texture of its skin against her own. In that touch, 2 species separated by light years of space and countless differences made their first peaceful contact. The medical team moved in with their equipment, and Sarah stepped back to let them work. She watched as human ingenuity and compassion went to work saving a life that had evolved on a world humanity had never seen. Whatever consequences came from this moment, she knew in her heart it was the right choice. As they carefully transferred the alien to their medical bay, Sarah noticed something clutched in its other hand, a small device covered in the same crystalline patterns as its skin. Something told her that this encounter was about to become even more complicated than a simple rescue. But that would have to wait. For now, there was a life to save, and Sarah Chen had just given humanity its first chance at a peaceful first contact. The real question was, what would happen when their guest woke up? The medical bay of the Helios hummed with activity as Dr. Rivera and her team worked to stabilize their unusual patient. Captain Sarah Chen watched through the observation window, her mind racing with the implications of what they'd done. The alien lay on the biobed, crystalline formations along its silver skin pulsing with a weak but steady rhythm. "Fascinating," Dr. Rivera muttered, studying the readings on her medical scanner. The crystalline structures appear to be some sort of secondary circulatory system. They're not just decorative, they're vital to their survival. Sarah nodded, her attention drawn to the device they'd recovered from the alien's grip. It sat in a containment field nearby, its surface occasionally flickering with the same subtle patterns as its owner's crystal formations. "Any progress on communicating with our guest?" "The linguistic matrix is still processing their initial transmissions," Marcus replied from his portable workstation. "But we're starting to identify some basic patterns. Their language seems to be based on both musical tones and light patterns from those crystals." A sudden movement from the biobed drew everyone's attention. The alien's 3 eyes fluttered open, all focusing immediately on Sarah. The crystalline patterns across its skin flashed rapidly, accompanied by a series of musical notes that made the medical equipment vibrate in sympathy. "Easy there," Sarah said, keeping her voice calm and steady. She raised her empty hands, palms forward, a universal gesture of peace she hoped would translate. "You're safe. We're trying to help." The alien's eyes widened, darting around the medical bay before returning to Sarah. Its crystal patterns shifted to a deeper, slower pulse, and the musical tones became lower in pitch. Dr. Rivera's scanner beat urgently. "Their stress levels are spiking," she reported. "But wait, they're actually stabilizing now. I think they're beginning to understand we're not a threat." The alien slowly raised one hand, mimicking Sarah's peaceful gesture. Then it did something unexpected. It pressed its other hand to its chest and made a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. The crystals on its face arranged themselves into a complex pattern. Marcus's linguistic matrix chirped. I think that was their name. The closest approximation in human speech would be Lyra." Sarah stepped closer to the biobed, maintaining eye contact with their guest. She pressed her own hand to her chest. "Sarah," she said clearly, then gestured to her crew. "Friends, help." Lyra's crystals pulsed with a new pattern, and the musical tones shifted to something that almost sounded like human speech, attempting to form the word Sarah. Progress, however small, was being made. But the moment of connection was interrupted by a violent shudder that ran through the ship. Alert klaxons began blaring throughout the helios. "Captain, to the bridge." Tom's voice came over the intercom, tight with tension. "We've got company." Sarah turned to leave, but felt a sudden grip on her arm. Lyra had reached out, their three eyes wide with what could only be described as terror. The device in the containment field began pulsing urgently. "They're coming," the linguistic matrix translated, its artificial voice struggling with the complex harmonics. "The hunters. Hide. Run. Death follows them." Sarah made a split-second decision. "Doctor, get our guest mobile. Marcus, grab that device. We need to move." As they helped Lyra to their feet, another impact rocked the ship. Through the medical bay viewport, Sarah caught a glimpse of something massive and dark moving against the star field. Its design was nothing like Lyra's elegant vessel. This was something built for war, all sharp angles and weapon ports. "Multiple ships detected," Tom reported. Four vessels. Design unknown. They're charging weapons." Lyra's crystals flashed frantically, and the linguistic matrix struggled to keep up. "The hunters never stop. They take. They destroy. They consume. Your help dooms you." Sarah helped steady Lyra as they made their way toward the bridge. "Well, then we better figure out how to survive together, because I didn't save you just to hand you over to whatever's out there." The aliens' three eyes blinked in sequence, their crystals shifting to a pattern they hadn't seen before. The matrix translated, "Why risk yourselves for one unknown life?" Sarah managed a grim smile as they entered the bridge. "Because that's what humans do. We help first and worry about the consequences later. Usually works out better than shooting first." The main viewport showed their situation in stark detail. 4 vessels, each easily twice the size of the Helios, had taken up attack positions around them. Their design reminded Sarah of deep-sea predators, all sleek lines and deadly purpose. "They're hailing us," Marcus reported from his station. On screen, Sarah ordered, helping Lyra into a seat. The image that appeared made several crew members gasp. The beings on the other ship were nightmarish. Their bodies seemed to be made of living shadow, with points of red light where eyes should be. When they spoke, their voices were like grinding metal. "You harbor our prey," the creature said, the words somehow translated into harsh English. "Surrender the crystal singer, and we will allow you to live. Resist, and we will add your biomass to our collective." Sarah felt Lyra trembling beside her, the alien's crystals now barely glowing. But she also noticed something else. The device they'd recovered was pulsing in sync with the Helios' power core, creating subtle harmonics throughout the ship's systems. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the mining vessel Helios," she responded, standing tall. "We've granted asylum to a survivor we found in distress. Under the Proxima Accords and basic human principles, we will not surrender them to face obvious harm." The hunter's red eyes flared. "You do not understand what you protect, human. The crystal singers are a plague upon this galaxy. Their harmonics disrupt the very fabric of space-time. They must be eliminated." Sarah glanced at Lyra, who had managed to stand despite their injuries. The alien held out the hand for the device Marcus carried, and Sarah nodded her permission. As soon as Lyra touched it, the crystal formations on both the device and their skin began to glow brighter. "The crystal singers create," Lyra's translated voice rang out, stronger now. "The hunters only destroy. They fear what they cannot consume, cannot control. That is why they hunt us. That is why they fear us." The hunter leader's form seemed to ripple with rage. "You have made your choice, humans. Prepare to be consumed." The transmission cut off, and Sarah immediately turned to her crew. "Battle stations. Tom, get us moving. Marcus, coordinate with engineering. I want to know what that device is doing to our systems. Doctor, keep our guests stable." As their crew jumped into action, Sarah felt a gentle touch on her arm. Lyra's crystals were pulsing with a complex pattern she hadn't seen before. The resonance core, The Matrix translated, "It can save us, but requires trust, dangerous, might kill us all." Sarah looked into those three alien eyes and saw something she recognized, the same determination she felt in her own heart. "Well," she said with a grim smile, "I'd rather die trying something crazy than surrender to those things. What do you need?" The next few minutes were a blur of activity as Lyra worked with Marcus to interface their crystalline device with the Helios systems. The hunter ships had begun their attack, their weapons impacting the mining vessels' shields with devastating force. "Shields at 60%, Tom reported, executing another evasive maneuver. "We can't take much more of this." Lyra's crystals were glowing brighter than ever, their patterns synchronized with the pulsing of their device. The ship's power core began to emit a harmonic frequency that made everyone's teeth ache. "Ready," Lyra transmitted. "But warning, never attempted with human technology. Unknown results." Sarah gripped her command chair as another blast rocked the ship. "Well, we're about to find out what happens. Do it." Lyra pressed their hand flat against their device, and the world seemed to hold its breath. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Helios power core began to sing. There was no other word for it. A pure crystalline note filled the ship, growing in intensity until it felt like the very atoms of their beings were vibrating in harmony. The hunter ships suddenly stopped firing, their forms seeming to waver in space. "By all that's holy," Marcus whispered, staring at his readings. "The crystalline harmonics are creating some kind of quantum resonance field. It's disrupting their molecular cohesion." Through the viewport, Sarah watched in awe as the hunter ships began to lose their solid form, the living shadow of their construction unable to maintain integrity in the face of Lyra's crystal song. The beings transmitted one final message, a scream of rage and fear, before their ships dissolved into clouds of dissipating darkness. The crystal song faded slowly, leaving behind a profound silence. Lyra swayed on their feet, their glow dimming, but Sarah caught them before they could fall. "That," she said with a small laugh, "was definitely something crazy." Lyra's crystals pulsed weakly. Humans, trusted unknown, risked all. Why? Sarah helped them back to their seat, aware that her entire crew was watching this moment of quiet connection between two species that had only just met. "Because sometimes you have to trust that helping others is worth the risk," she replied, and I'd say this time it paid off pretty well. The aliens' crystals shifted through several patterns before the Matrix translated. Perhaps the stories we heard about humans were wrong. Not just warriors, not just conquerors. Something more. Sarah smiled. "We're complicated like that. Now, how about we figure out exactly what you are, what those things were, and what we're going to do next? Because something tells me this isn't over." Lyra's crystals pulsed in what might have been agreement. The hunter ships were gone, but they had opened a door that couldn't be closed. Humanity had just been drawn into a conflict they barely understood, all because one captain had chosen to help rather than hide. As Sarah looked around at her crew, humans working alongside that alien guest without hesitation or fear, she knew that whatever came next, this was how first contact should have been all along. Not with weapons or suspicion, but with trust and a willingness to face the unknown together. The real question was, what other wonders and dangers would this new alliance reveal? The Helios' engine room thrummed with an unfamiliar rhythm as Lyra's crystalline technology merged with the human systems. Chief Engineer Maya Patel watched in fascination as the aliens' crystals pulsed in sync with their ship's power core, creating harmonics that seemed to bend the very fabric of reality around them. "The resonance patterns are stabilizing," Maya reported, her dark hands dancing across the holographic controls. "But I've never seen energy signatures like this. It's like our technology is learning from theirs." Captain Sarah Chen nodded, watching as Lyra worked. The aliens' wounds had mostly healed over the past few days, revealing more of the intricate crystal patterns that covered their silvery skin. "Can you explain how it works?" she asked their guest. Lyra's crystals flickered thoughtfully before the linguistic matrix translated. We sing to the quantum fabric of space. The crystals, they remember the songs. Each pattern, each harmony, shapes reality differently. Like programming reality itself, Marcus added from his station, where he'd been studying the data streams. But instead of using code, they used crystalline quantum harmonics. Their discussion was interrupted by a sudden alert from the bridge. "Captain," Tom's voice crackled over the intercom. "Long-range sensors are picking up multiple signatures. Same pattern as the hunter ships, but bigger." Sarah's expression hardened. "How many?" "7 vessels, each at least twice the size of the ones we encountered before. They're moving fast, Captain. 2 hours until intercept at current speed." Lyra's crystals flashed with urgent patterns. Hunter Dominion ships. Not scouts like before, warships. They come to cleanse. "Cleanse?" Sarah asked, though she had a feeling she knew what that meant. "They will destroy everything. Your ship, your crew, the entire system. Hunters do not allow witnesses to survive, especially now that you have seen Crystal Singer technology." Sarah squared her shoulders. "Well, we're not going down without a fight. Maya, what's the status of our new hybrid systems?" The engineer consulted her readings. "The crystal resonance has enhanced our shields by about 300%, and our energy output is off the charts. But we're still just a mining vessel. We don't have the weapons to take on 7 warships." "No," Lyra agreed, their crystals pulsing with determination. "But we have something better. The song of unmaking you saw before, that was just one harmony. There are others. Ancient songs, dangerous songs." Sarah studied their alien guest carefully. "Why do I hear a but coming? The songs I speak of, they require multiple crystal singers. The harmonics become exponentially more powerful when we sing together. But the nearest crystal singer enclave is in the Vega system." "That's 10 light-years away," Marcus interjected. "Even with our fastest engines, we'd never make it in time." Lyra's crystals suddenly blazed with inspiration. "Your engines know. But if we fully integrate the resonance core with your drive systems, we might be able to create a quantum slip, a way to step between spaces." Maya's eyes widened. "You're talking about some form of faster-than-light travel." "Similar, but different. We don't move through space. We fold it. But attempting this with human technology has never been done. The risk is better than certain death," Sarah finished. She hit the shipwide comm. "All hands, this is the captain. Secure all stations for possible extreme gravitational effects. We're about to try something that either gets us into the history books or kills us spectacularly." The next hour was a blur of activity as Maya and Lyra worked to integrate their technologies more deeply than ever before. The crystal formations began to spread through the ship's systems like elegant frost patterns, each one pulsing with complex harmonics. "Ready," Lyra announced finally, their 3 eyes gleaming with nervous energy. "But warning, the sensation will be uncomfortable." Sarah took her position on the bridge, her crew at their stations. "Everyone ready to make history. Start the sequence." Lyra placed their hands on the resonance core, and their crystals began to glow with an intense light. The ship's power core joined in, adding its own harmony to the building symphony. The very air seemed to vibrate with potential energy. "Quantum field stabilizing," Marcus reported, his voice tight with tension. "Reality distortion at 15% and climbing." Through the viewport, Sarah watched as space itself seemed to ripple like heat waves off hot pavement. Stars began to smear across the black canvas of space, their light bending in impossible ways. "Field at 85%, Maya called from engineering. Crystal resonance reaching critical harmonics." Laura's voice rang out, both in their musical language and through the matrix. "Now, the song peaks. Hold tight to your reality." The universe folded. There was no other way to describe it. For a moment that felt like both an eternity and no time at all, The Helios existed everywhere and nowhere. Sarah had the distinct sensation that she could see all possible versions of herself across infinite realities, each one making slightly different choices that led to vastly different outcomes. Then, with a sound like the universe itself taking a deep breath, they snapped back into normal space. Position. Sarah managed to ask, fighting down a wave of nausea. Vega system, Tom reported, sounding dazed. We just crossed 10 light years in under a minute. Before anyone could celebrate this achievement, their senses exploded with new contacts. Dozens of ships surrounded them, each one bearing the same crystalline design as Lyra's original vessel, but they weren't alone. Multiple hunter signatures detected, Marcus called out. They followed our quantum wake, the entire Dominion fleet. They're here. The space around them erupted into chaos as the hunter ships engaged with the Crystal Singer fleet. Energy beams and quantum distortions crisscrossed the void, creating a deadly light show. Lyra's crystals pulsed with urgent patterns. We must reach the temple ship. The elders, they must know what I discovered. Why the hunters truly fear us. Sarah watched as a Crystal Singer vessel nearby executed an impossible maneuver, its quantum harmonics literally bending space around an enemy attack. What did you discover? The true nature of our songs. They don't just manipulate reality, they can reshape it. Permanently. The hunters don't fear us because we resist them. They fear us because we could change what they are, could help them remember what they were before they became living shadows. A massive explosion lit up space as one of the hunter ships succumbed to a combined attack from 3 Crystal Singer vessels, but more were pouring in from all directions. The temple ship, Lyra continued, their crystals blazing. I can see it. There. They pointed to an enormous crystalline structure that dwarfed all other vessels in the battle. It pulsed with layers of quantum harmonics that made Sarah's eyes water just looking at it. Tom, get us there, she ordered. Maya, give us everything the hybrid systems can manage. We didn't come this far to fail now. As the Helios dove into the heart of the battle, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. A simple rescue had turned into first contact, then into a desperate flight across space, and now into what might be the pivotal moment in an ancient conflict. The question was, would they live long enough to see how it all ended? The battle for the Vega system raged around the Helios as they pushed toward the temple ship. Crystal Singer vessels danced through space in impossible patterns, their quantum harmonics creating ripples in reality itself. The hunter ships responded with weapons that seemed to devour light itself, their living shadow technology a dark mirror to the crystalline beauty of their opponents. Shields at 65%. Maya called from engineering. The hybrid systems are holding, but we can't take many direct hits. Sarah gripped her command chair as another near miss rocked the ship. Tom, keep us in the shadow of the friendly vessels. Let them draw the main fire. Through the chaos, a new voice cut across their communications. A chorus of crystalline tones that the Matrix struggled to translate. Unknown vessel, you carry the quantum signature of a singer. Identify yourself. Lyra stepped forward, their crystals blazing with complex patterns. Elder Council, I am Lyra, scout of the Outer Rings. I bring vital knowledge and unexpected allies. There was a pause before the response came. Approach on Vector 7. The way will be cleared. As if choreographed, several Crystal Singer ships moved to create a corridor through the battle. The Helios surged forward, but the hunters had noticed their movement. 3 enemy ships on intercept course, Marcus warned. They're charging their primary weapons. Sarah watched as streams of living darkness reached out toward them like hungry tentacles. But before they could strike, something remarkable happened. The crystal formations that had spread throughout the Helios' systems began to pulse with a new harmony, one that seemed to resonate with the very structure of the ship. Captain, Maya's voice was filled with wonder. The hybrid systems, they're evolving. The crystals are singing on their own. Lyra's three eyes widened. Impossible. The crystals respond only to singer consciousness. Unless. The dark energy weapons of the hunter ships struck their shields, but instead of depleting them, the crystal-enhanced barrier seemed to absorb the attack. The harmonics changed pitch, and suddenly the borrowed energy was redirected, splitting into prismatic beams that scattered the attacking vessels. The human technology, Lyra's crystals pulsed with excitement as the matrix translated. It provides a framework, a new way for the crystals to express their songs. We never thought to try. We were too bound by tradition. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Humans have a habit of finding new ways to do old things. Sometimes all you need is a fresh perspective. They reached the temple ship, a massive crystalline structure that seemed to be made of frozen music given form. As they approached, an opening appeared in its geometric surface, leading to a vast docking bay. "All hands, prepare for boarding," Sarah announced. "We're about to make history again." The docking procedure was seamless, the temple ship's own harmonics guiding them into place. As they secured the Helios, Sarah got her first look at the interior of a crystal singer vessel. The walls seemed alive with flowing patterns of light and crystal, each surface humming with subtle energies. A delegation waited for them, 5 crystal singers, their formations more elaborate and intricate than Lyra's. The Elder Council, Sarah presumed, but their attention wasn't focused on Lyra or the human crew. They were staring at the Helios itself. The resonance. One of the elders spoke, their crystals creating complex harmonies that the matrix rendered in hushed tones. "Your vessel, it sings." "Impossible," another elder declared. "No non-singer technology can channel the harmonics. It is forbidden by the very nature of reality." Lyra stepped forward, their own crystals pulsing with determination. And yet it does. Just as the hunters were once something else before they became living shadow, perhaps what we believed about the songs was not the whole truth. The lead elder moved closer to Sarah, their crystalline patterns shifting through colors she had no words for. "You are the commander of this vessel, Captain Sarah Chen," she replied with a respectful nod. "And before you ask why we'd risk ourselves in your war, we help those who need it. It's what humans do. Even when those you help bring destruction to your doorstep." The elder's 3 eyes studied her intently. "The hunters will not stop. They will pursue you to your homeworld now." "Then we better figure out how to stop them," Sarah responded firmly. "Lyra says they can be changed back to whatever they were before. If that's true, isn't it worth trying? Better than eternal war." The Elder Council exchanged complex patterns of light between themselves, their crystals creating overlapping harmonies that made the air itself seem to shimmer. Finally, the lead elder spoke again. "Come, there is much to discuss and little time. The hunters mass for their final assault, and with it, a weapon we have not seen before. One that could end not just this battle, but all of reality in this sector of space." As they followed the council deeper into the temple ship, Sarah felt the subtle vibrations of combat continuing outside. But something else caught her attention. The crystal formations throughout the ship were beginning to pulse in sync with the hybrid systems of the Helios, creating new harmonies that seemed to bridge the gap between human and singer technology. "The songs are changing," Lyra observed, their crystals flickering with what might have been hope. Perhaps this is why the hunters attacked my scout ship so far from our territory. They sensed what I had discovered, but the songs could be shared, could evolve, that we need not be bound by the old ways. And that terrified them, Sarah finished the thought. Because if the songs can change, then so can they, the lead elder confirmed. But the process would require harmonics we have never achieved. The combined resonance of all crystal singers, focused through a framework that could stabilize such power. Like a mining vessel modified with hybrid crystal technology, Maya suggested, her engineer's mind already racing with possibilities. The elder's crystals pulsed with what might have been amusement. Perhaps the humans are not the only ones who needed a fresh perspective. they entered what could only be described as a cathedral of crystal and song. Hundreds of crystal singers stood in concentric circles, their harmonics building into a symphony that kept the hunter forces at bay. But Sarah could see the strain in their patterns, the flickering of their light. They were fighting a losing battle. "If we're going to do something," she said, "it needs to be soon. How do we help?" The lead elder turned to her, all three eyes glowing with intense purpose. "Captain Chen, how much do you trust in things you cannot fully understand?" Sarah thought of the moment she'd first reached out to take Lyra's hand, of every impossible thing they'd survived since then. Sometimes you have to trust that helping others is worth the risk. What did you have in mind? The elder's crystals blazed. "We are going to remake reality itself, and your ship, your impossible hybrid of human innovation and singer harmonics, will be the key, if you're willing." Outside, the hunter fleet pressed closer, their living shadow weapons tearing at the fabric of space itself. Sarah looked at her crew, at Lyra, at the assembled crystal singers, all watching her with their tripled gaze. This was the moment that would define not just first contact, but the future of multiple species. "Well," she said with a determined smile, "we came this far. Let's make it count." The real question was, could human ingenuity and crystal singer harmonics combine to save them all, or would their attempt to reshape reality destroy everything they were trying to protect? The temple ship's crystalline cathedral pulsed with building energy as hundreds of crystal singers began aligning their harmonics. Sarah watched from the Helios bridge as Maya and Lyra worked to integrate their ship's hybrid systems with the massive resonance network. "The hunter fleet is moving into attack formation," Marcus reported, his eyes on the sensor displays. "Energy readings are off the charts. Whatever weapon they're preparing, it's like nothing we've seen before." Through the viewports, Sarah could see the enemy vessels arranging themselves into a precise geometric pattern. The living shadow of their construction seemed to be spreading between ships, creating a vast web of darkness that began to eclipse the stars themselves. "They mean to tear a hole in reality itself." The lead elder's voice came through the matrix, their crystals pulsing with urgent harmonies. "To create a void that will consume everything it touches, spreading until this entire sector of space is nothing but shadow." "How do we stop it?" Sarah asked, watching as the darkness grew. "We don't stop it," Lyra replied, their crystals flickering with complex patterns. "We reshape it." The hunters were not always creatures of shadow. The songs can remind them of what they once were, but the harmonics required would tear apart any normal vessel acting as a focus point, the elder finished. "But your ship, Captain Chen, the impossible merger of human engineering and singer crystalline technology, it might survive channeling such power." "Might?" Maya asked from her engineering station. "The chances of complete structural failure are significant," Lyra admitted. "But if we succeed, we don't just save this system, we save the hunters from themselves." Sarah looked at her crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt. "Maya, what do we need to do?" The engineer's hands flew across her controls. "We'll need to route all power through the crystal matrices, including life support. One shot at this, Captain. Once we start, we can't stop until it's done." "How long can we survive without life support?" "Maybe 10 minutes. Less if the structural integrity fields fail." Sarah nodded grimly. "Then we better work fast. All non-essential personnel, evacuate to the temple ship. The rest of us, let's make history." As most of her crew departed, Sarah kept her core team. Maya in engineering, Marcus at sensors, Tom at the helm, and Dr. Rivera standing by for medical emergencies. Lyra stood at the center of the bridge, their crystals beginning to pulse in sync with the vast harmony building around them. The hunter weapon continued to grow, the web of living shadow now large enough to swallow worlds. Through their quantum sensors, they could see reality itself beginning to fray around its edges. "They're starting," Marcus warned. "Reality breach in 3 minutes." The elder's voice rang through their communications. "All singers, Align your harmonics with the human vessel. Let your songs become one. The symphony that filled the ship was beyond anything Sarah had ever experienced. It wasn't just sound. It was light, energy, possibility itself given form. The crystal formations throughout the Helios blazed with power, spreading further through their systems with each passing second. Hull integrity at 75% and falling, Maya reported through gritted teeth. The power levels are beyond anything we were designed to handle. Life support failing, Marcus added, 8 minutes of air remaining. Sarah felt the ship groaning around them as reality itself seemed to flex and bend. Through the viewports, she could see the hunter ships pause in their attack, perhaps sensing that something unprecedented was occurring. Now, Lyra's voice rang out, their crystals blazing like miniature suns. The harmony peaks, directed through the hybrid matrices. Maya slammed her hand down on the final control, and the world went white. The sensation was indescribable. Sarah felt as if she could see the quantum structure of reality itself, could touch the very strings that held existence together. The combined harmonics of hundreds of crystal singers, focused through the Helios' hybrid systems, reached out toward the hunter fleet's weapon. Where light met shadow, something remarkable happened. The darkness began to change to remember. Layer by layer, the living shadow transformed, crystalline patterns emerging from within like stars being born. The hunter ships themselves started to shift, their harsh angles softening, their weapons becoming dormant as ancient memories awakened within their very substance. "It's working," Marcus exclaimed, though his voice was weak from the failing air supply. "The hunter fleet, they're transforming." But the strain on the Helios was catastrophic. Crystal formations shattered and regrew in seconds, each pulse of power threatening to tear the ship apart. Warning alerts screamed from every console as systems failed one after another. Hull breach on Deck 3. Maya's voice was barely audible over the symphony of power flowing through their ship. "We can't take much more." "Life support critical," Marcus gasped. 2 minutes of air remaining. Sorrow watched through blurring vision as the transformation continued to spread through the hunter fleet. The web of shadow was becoming a lattice of crystal and light, each ship remembering its true nature, but they were running out of time. "Lyra," she managed to say, "is it enough?" The aliens' crystals pulsed weakly as they redirected more power through their failing systems. Almost, the changes reached critical mass, but the final harmony requires everything. Sarah understood. "Maya, divert all remaining power to the crystal matrices. Everything we've got." "Captain, that includes emergency reserves. We'll have no way to restart the systems." "Do it anyway." Sarah gripped her chair as the ship shuddered violently. Better to go out doing something that matters. Humans provided the framework, their innovative technology and adaptable thinking creating new ways to channel the ancient harmonics. The crystal singers brought their understanding of reality's underlying music, their songs giving form to possibilities that science alone could never achieve. And the reborn harmonious, with their unique perspective of having lived in both shadow and light, helped bridge the gaps between different ways of thinking. More humans were coming, drawn by the news of what had happened in the Vega system. Some feared this merger of technologies and cultures would change humanity too much, too fast. But as Sarah watched her crew working seamlessly alongside crystal singers and harmonious, she knew that change wasn't always something to fear. "You're thinking deep thoughts," Lyra observed, finding her on the Helios' new observation deck. The ship hummed around them, its hybrid systems creating harmonies that felt like home. "Just wondering what happens next," Sarah replied, touching the crystal that now hung at her throat. "We've changed everything, your people, the harmonious, even what it means to be human. Some people back home aren't going to like that." Lyra's crystals pulsed with gentle light. "Change is like a song, Captain. It cannot be stopped, only shaped. The question is, do we fight the new harmonies, or do we learn to sing with them?" Sarah smiled, watching as a group of ships, human, crystal singer, and harmonious working together, began testing a new form of quantum drive that would revolutionize space travel. We sing with them, of course. It's what humans do. We adapt, we learn, we grow. And now we do it together, Nexus added, joining them at the viewport. Their once shadowy form now rippled with internal light that complemented rather than consumed. 3 peoples, each bringing their own part to the greater harmony. Sarah felt the crystal at her throat pulse in response to her emotions. In the space of a few weeks, she'd gone from a simple mining ship captain to someone who could hear the songs that shaped reality. Her crew had helped heal an ancient wound in the universe itself, and humanity had gained not 1 but 2 new allies, each bringing gifts that would change everything. "You know," she said, watching the ships dance through space, "when I decided to help a damaged alien vessel, I didn't expect to end up helping rewrite the fundamental nature of reality." Lyra's crystals flickered with amusement. "And if you had known?" Sarah thought about it, remembering that first moment of choice, to help or to hide, to trust or to fear. "I'd have done exactly the same thing, because that's who we are, all of us. We're explorers, dreamers, helpers. And now we are singers of a new song," Nexus finished, their patterns shifting with quiet joy. One that will echo through reality itself. Outside, the stars seemed to pulse in harmony with their words, as if the universe itself was listening to this new music they were creating together. It wasn't an ending, Sarah realized, but a beginning, the first notes of a symphony that would change everything. The question wasn't what would happen next. The question was, what impossible things would they achieve together? In the vastness of space, 3 civilizations began to sing as one, and reality itself listened with wonder.